everyone. Mike Evans, Casey Pyne and Patrick Flynn here from Spy Curious with this week's episode number 83 of Australian Investigation Weekly News, where we make statements and investigations great again. There's so much to get through this week. We're going to have to skip some of the preliminaries of introductions and how are yous because I've got to move right through it. People, today you can win a Spy Curious cap, just like this. It's still wrapped. Okay, what you've got to do, you've got to get your mobile device. Okay, go to Kahoot it on your mobile device, right? And wait for further instructions at 25 past 2 or 3, wherever you want from today. Turn my phone off, otherwise I'm going to ring all the way through this. Very busy week at the Australian Security Academy. 3 enrolled in the Diploma of Government Investigation. 1 person has enrolled in the Diploma of Government Fraud Control. 1 person has enrolled in Certificate for Government Investigation, and 2 people have enrolled in Certificate 3 in Mercantile Agents in the last 45 minutes. Very busy news week here, everybody. So let's have a look at some of the things that happened during the week. The Office of Fair Trading in Queensland got it wrong with some letters they've sent out to students rejecting their claim to become licensed private investigators. The Office of Fair Trading was instructing students to go out and get a superseded unit on their qualifications. Now, the beauty of being a member of AirLap for everybody is what we do is we go into bat for you because you're one of our students, and we sorted that out with the Office of Fair Trading straight away. They've retracted that bad, incorrect statement and won't do it again. Now, people often ask me, I want to be an investigator. It's going to be really great fun. I'm going to reunite families and everybody's going to be happy and all that sort of thing. Well, I wish it was like that, but it's not always like that, okay? Sometimes you have to do the difficult stuff. And I must emphasize this to people. It's not always everything's happy and everything's nice. What do you think you're going to investigate? Not nice stuff. It's not puppy dogs and flowers. So this is one that happened in America this week. Sorry. A man won Keno at the pub and he drowned with his winning ticket in his pocket. And you can Google this and see a man won a $62,000 lottery ticket, and they found him a couple of days later floating in the water, and the winning ticket was still in his pocket. Here in Australia, this is one of the most common investigations you are going to be doing. I hate to tell you. I've done one where 2 young apprentices whose salary at the time wouldn't have been $17,000 each. They never ever had 2 cents to rub together. They were a couple of young 19-year-olds. They went to the pub after work one night. They won $40,000 on Keno. 40 grand. Never been richer in their very short lives, because on the way back from the pub, after drinking so much to celebrate, the driver went straight into a telegraph pole and killed them both. And then that became a big issue over who the money, $20,000 each, was going to go to in relation to a dependency claim. Now, of course, the ex-girlfriends came forward and they wanted to shoot it up their arm. One of them was a father of 2 and he had a single mum girlfriend. I mean, they needed the money. And then a couple of parents came forward. They wanted to go and put it through the pokies for him. So, this is the sort of thing that has to be sorted out. It comes from a tragedy. You're going to be going along and interviewing the relatives and friends of those people, and you better take 2 boxes of tissues with you, because that sort of thing, it does happen here in Australia. So if you win the lotto or you win Keno, go home and open up a bottle of Jack Daniels and drink it there. Don't drive home. In a criminal investigation matter down in Sydney this week, Sydney man has been jailed for accessing women's private iCloud pics. So this pervert down in Rooty Hill has been sent to jail for it. The Australian Federal Police got onto it and they executed a search warrant at his house, and basically he put his hand up for it. He's now serving time in jail for doing that. So that's happened in the news this week. Now, this is a beauty. For all of those of you who are studying government investigations, advanced diploma, before. This is a really important ethical issue for you investigators. Down in New South Wales this week, a department employee was seen by the Fair Work Commission to have been wrongfully sacked for helping police with a murder case. So what he's done, he's been approached by the police over a person that used to work at the Department of Transport who was sacked, and he's provided that person's computer to them. So his workplace has found out about this and they've sacked him. Now he's gone to the Fair Work Commission, but the issue for you government investigators who are internal government investigators on code of conduct is a very important thing. Pat, Flynn, what are the issues in relation to this?
Yeah, when you work in a government department, there's always issues in regards to privacy, confidentiality, those sorts of things. So in a lot of instances, there's legislation that the government department will be administering, and usually that will have some sections in it that relate to non-disclosure of information and, you know, your privacy issues and things like that. You've got legislation, as I said there. The other thing that they quite often do is they'll get you to sign a confidentiality non-disclosure agreement. Now, where it's different is the fact that you've got legislation that actually says you're not allowed to disclose any information. Once you've signed a confidentiality contract, then you can be sued personally for breaching the contract. So they're the issues. Now, this particular case is quite interesting actually because let me go back. In the Australian Public Service, the two most common reasons why you have your termination of your employment is timesheet fraud, where people are working flexible hours and things like that, and they're not actually doing anything, timesheet fraud, and inappropriate access of information. So it's even to the point now where even if you're working alongside someone in a government department, you're not allowed to access the files that the person that's sitting next to you is using and doing and working with. So it's even to the point where if you want to get a hand, say for example, the person who's working next to you is more experienced and you want to get a hand with how to deal with the matter you've got, you have to document the fact that you've asked permission and it has to be sanctioned by supervisors and all sorts of things. So confidentiality is a real big issue. However, this one, what it was the internal investigations that were looked at by the organisation had this, the suspect for the murder, he was investigated for stalking and doing things like with women and things like sexually harassing women and things like that, which, you know, he ended up murdering another female. So it's obviously very relevant to the murder investigation, that information. But as the judge said in summing it up, the management of that organisation's department was more concerned with the fact that the information was disclosed rather than looking at the bigger picture in the fact of helping homicide detectives solve a murder. So, yeah, I'm glad to see that he actually got reinstated because it was a pretty silly decision, I reckon.
Yeah, it comes back to that policy process procedure, the enforcement of it right across the board, like they're sitting next to each other. It's complicated, and they're the responsibilities of the qualified internal government investigator. You are going to come up with these. It's commonplace. That's your role, to investigate and listen to both sides in relation to it. Everybody's got to have a hearing. Now, don't forget, people, get on your mobile phone, get in the search engine, Kahoot it, get ready to answer 3 questions in 40 seconds. You'll win a Spy Curious cap and be Investigator of the Week. We're going to be doing that about 2:25 Have a bit of fun for a minute. It's good fun, people. I don't want to be doing it all by myself, so get ready for it. Other things that have been happening this week around the place. Where am I? A police officer in Queensland's finally been sacked after 3 years for accessing the police database illegally. So that's come up this week, finalised to that one. with this one, private security business licence, your Queensland business licence, and your New South Wales master licence. Now, what I'm doing next week on Tuesday at 11 a.m. For Spy Curious members is I'm doing an applying for investigation business licence or master licence easy SOPs session. It's going to go for 40 minutes on Tuesday at 11 o'clock, and it's how to write standard operating procedures for investigation firms. Now, every security firm in existence can handle this, but we don't normally have these. When we get into the world of security for the Office of Fair Trading in Queensland, the Licensing Regulation Division in Victoria, and for the SLED in New South Wales, they want to see that for those various things. So Tuesday, 11 o'clock, you'll be given an invitation for that. If you're a Spy Curious member, it's free. Doesn't cost a thing. If you're an Australian Security Academy student, you want to see it, get in touch with me by email and I'll give you access to it on Tuesday. There'll be no replays. It's live and that's it. So that's something, if you're going to have your own business and you want to register it, certainly get ready for that. So something that's happening now.
That'd be very helpful.
Yeah, so it's very plain words. It shows you the traps with you, me, I, them, they, there. It all concentrates on investigations. There's not a security thing mentioned and how to do it, and you'll be able to write your SOPs for the LRD instantly. Now, they've cracked down there recently. There's been the same SOPs going in for every application for a business for the last 15 years. I know because I wrote them. Whoops. So they've rejected that, said they're not detailed enough now, and basically they're not accepting it. So Tuesday, 11 o'clock, I'm doing how to write SOPs next week. Casey, you've come in today with a, how do we describe it?
It's a review.
Yeah. All right. So Casey's got a product review. Hi, Case.
Okay, so because this isn't an OSINT tip because it's not open source, so anything behind a paywall is not considered open source. So if you have to pay for information, like when you pay that little $17 fee for ASIC, that's not open source intelligence. That's behind a paywall. So I just thought I might make that distinction there. And this week, I've had so much fun with this. I have had a trial for Detective Desk. So I'm sure a lot of you have heard of it and probably some of you have used it. And I know that I see a lot in our private investigator forums is some people say, oh, should I use Casper or Detective Desk? This isn't I prefer Detective Desk or anything like that. I find them quite different, both very valuable, but this is just talking about my week with Detective Desk so far. So with the Detective Desk, I really enjoy their user interface. I find it really easy to use. I love how when you actually get in there, it says how many records that they've added that day. So this morning when I jumped in, they had added already 1,483 records to their database. I love seeing the live updates, love seeing that they're constantly working towards making their platform better. Because if you've ever applied for a trial or asked for pricing, these things aren't necessarily cheap, but they're worth it if you need them. So with Detective Desk, you can get access to data that you would probably usually have to pay for yourself or that you don't have access to at all. So they buy all like the big marketing databases and things like that, and they plug it in there. And for example, if I wanted to do like a title search, that would usually just cost me $100 on its own. Whereas in Detective Desk, you've got that, and then you've got other things that you would usually have to pay for individually on top of that. So it kind of saves you money there. That's if the information is there at the time. One of my favorite features that I found this week with some of my desktop investigations was this, and the little blue dot there is my subject, and around it is information on the neighbours. So as you know, that you can't always make direct contact with your subject. It's usually good to have that 6 degrees of separation, so you can call a neighbour and find out if you're trying to verify an address or see if someone still lives there. You can always call a neighbour as opposed to directly calling that person. So if I clicked on any one of those red dots, it will bring up who lives there, what their mobile number is, or any information that Detective Desk has on them. And I find that really, really useful. The other useful thing I enjoy is with Detective Desk, you can just type in a date of birth and it'll bring up everybody from that date. I didn't realize that so many people were born on the 3rd of February. That's my birthday. So there is lots of them. Even I narrowed it down to a suburb on the Gold Coast, and there is lots of us who were born on that date. So I find that really interesting. You can also search age range. So say you a guy hits your car in a shopping centre and he comes up to you and says, "Oh, I'm so sorry. Here's my mobile number." He's given you a fake number. You can see that he's maybe a tradie and that he looks between maybe 23 to 28, and you can put that age range in there with a postcode and it'll bring up a bunch of stuff, and it's really fantastic for that. Also, what else? You can just type in an address, you can just type in a phone number. It's really good with those when you've just got one piece of information. And yeah, it's really powerful that way. The other thing I love is I love graphs and timelines, and it has both. So I've just done, and I did my maiden name, and because I didn't want to completely dox myself online, but this is some old information. I lived at 22 Coachway, Upper Coomera. That's right. That was my landline at the time, back when we still had landlines. And as you can see up the top, I was there between 10 and 11, like 2010, 2011. And before that, I was in Helensvale, and I just love those kind of timelines where you can see like that phone number overlaps. I took it from Helensvale to Coachway. I'm in Upper Coomera, and then down below you've got the graphs where it all kind of interconnects. And when you find someone that has quite a bit of information on them, and if they lived with someone, all of those other extra people will be there. There's usually a mobile number, more addresses, and obviously more up-to-date information. I just put that there because all of my new information, I don't really want that on the video. So you can practice that yourself. So yes, graphs and timelines are fantastic that way. So I love being able to visualize that kind of thing and how things are interconnected, and it does it all for you. So desktop investigations and skip tracing, it's all a big puzzle, and it's all really about bringing those pieces together and finding those extra pivot points and presenting good and verified information. At least that's what it's all about for me. And yeah, I just think that it's not, Detective Desk is not the be all and end all. You can't just strictly use that and rely on that purely and expect to get everything, but it is a fantastic resource and I've really enjoyed using it.
Yeah, the good thing about those databases is you can bring a street up, and if you've got a witness or you've got an address where you think someone is and they haven't got a contact detail, as you said before, Casey, you ring the neighbour and say, "Can you go and pop next door and tell them to ring this number or get them to call you?" So
yeah,
really useful if the job is 2 hours away from where you live, and it's just a matter of locating a witness or something. If you drive out for 2 hours and then drive back for 2 hours and you don't get them, those databases are very good for that sort of thing.
It's fantastic. And it shows relatives. And it also, that's one of the other things, it shows all the occupants of an address. So if you're looking up John Smith, it shows that Mary Smith also lives there. So it might be a wife. And then it doesn't bring up young children, obviously. They don't have information on children under 18. But you might see a child that's just turned 18 and they've got their driver's license and they're now part of that address, or things like that. Adult children, other people that live there for extended family. It's really fantastic for that stuff.
And some people, when they have a claim in, if they've got a workers' comp claim or a public liability claim in, sometimes in the 3 years or so that it takes to sort of finalise the process of it, sometimes they drop off the radar and they don't update their electoral rolls and things like that. But if you can find out someone else who's an occupant in the house, yes, you can track them down and do that. Yeah, they're very good.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened to me today. I found an ex-wife because of detective just this week because I couldn't find my subject on the electoral roll. He hadn't updated his details. I couldn't really find him anywhere, and an ex-wife told me everything. It was fantastic. So
that's great, Casey. Thank you very much for that. That's absolutely excellent. You've got to try and play our game, Kahoot IT people. Get there, get ready to put the pin in. I don't know if we're going to have any players. Everybody might be too busy for the first disrupted week with daylight saving. I'm just going to try and bring it up.
Am I allowed to play?
You can play, yep. You able to with your hand?
Yeah. I'm just going to be maybe a little bit slow, but...
That's all right. I'm bringing it up on the screen now. So people on your mobile phone, put in that number in your game pin.
That's what it looks like on your phone.
Spin the wheel so you get a name. I'm not telling you who I am. Casey's doing this with one hand. Looks like we've got all our players, people. So we're ready to go. So this is about descriptions this week to find out who is Australia's best surveillance operative at descriptions. So we'll start off. Okay, so it's game one, Australia's best surveillance agent. First one's a quiz, worth double points. Agent Alex on the right is 6'4" tall. What is that in centimetres? Please put in your answers. Oh, what have we got here? We've got one right. Okay. So moving on to our next question. It's brainstorm. So you observant surveillance investigators, name 3 visible pieces of attire Steve on the left is wearing.
Yeah.
Got 3 seconds left. Okay. What have we got? We've got cap, boots, t-shirt, and brown. What's a brown?
He's wearing brown everything.
We'll skip voting, move on right up to the last question. Okay, so type your answer for this one. This is to see who is the Australian Surveillance Investigator of the Week. Name the farm or the town where they're at.
Oh.
Dramatic music. Okay, did everybody get that right? Bothwell.
I don't know. I need more time for geolocation than that.
It was in the writing up above them. You weren't being a good enough surveillance operative there, Casey.
No, I'm only one-handed.
Well, you'll have to come back next week. Okay, so there's our winner.
I got 0.
Okay, if you beat that next week, come and win a cat. All right, so what happened here? We've got some comments. And of course, my phone's ringing because I had it turned on. So all it's done all day is ring. Sorry, I can't talk to you people. I'm on a live stream. I don't want to be embarrassed. Okay, so moving right along and back to this week, we've had Eric, who's a student, and Eric graduated this week, and he's about to open up this afternoon his Certificate 3 in Investigative Services. But Eric's asked a question, and this is a question Pat's going to answer it. Yours was lighting, wasn't it, Pat?
Yes, that's right. Yep. Oh. Yeah, lighting's a very important issue. Depending where the claim's made, if it's outside or at a shopping centre or somewhere where it's public, there's actually Australian standards in regards to the amount of light that is over walkways and things like that. The other thing is there's Australian standards in regards to the use of different globes in the lights that are actually used. Usually the lights have the globes have a lifetime, whether it'll be 2 years or 1 year or whatever, and the luminance of the bulb decreases over that life of the bulb. Now the second thing, if it's a slip or fall that's happened in your property or whatever, those Australian standards for public walkways and things like that, they don't apply. However, you do have a duty of care, so that if people come to your house, the duty of care is to make sure that you would address the issue of reasonable foreseeability. So if there's no light and you've got a darkly lit walkway to come up to the front door to knock on the door, you could make that safer by having lights or making it more clearly visible. So lighting will influence the claim. Whether it reduces it or increases it by a lot is not, that's not sort of specific, but lighting is a very important issue. I must admit, when I was doing investigations on the road, it was the one thing that I always used to forget back when I was first learning, and I'd have to go back out and take photos of the lighting and describe the lighting. So yeah, lighting's a big issue.
Yeah, it's one of the most important. I had one of these where a lady had been at a party at a friend's place. There was just 6 people there, big party. And it was in one of the roughest suburbs in Australia. I mean, you wouldn't go in there if you didn't have the right squad with you. And she decided she was going to walk home at 1:30 in the morning. Now, she only had to walk half a kilometre to go home, but it was through a park, and the park usually was well lit. And the council had just been erecting a new fence, and they covered up the holes they'd dug to fill in on Monday with the new fence posts. But some kids came along and took the covers off the holes. And the lights in that area along that footpath were all smashed by the kids. So there's no lighting in that area. So she's gone through in the dark on a very dark night, and she's fallen down into one of these holes that they'd dug for the fence posts. These are quite big holes, and she was a quite slight lady. Now, she fell in that hole, broke both her legs, 1:30 in the morning. She was a nurse. She knew she'd broken her legs. She knew if she cried out for help, what would happen to her. You can think about that as much as you like. This is as rough as guts, no rules, rough suburb, really bad. She waited until she heard someone walking their dog coming past at 7:30 the next morning before she asked them for help. If you've ever broken anything, it's pretty bad and it's very painful, but she knew what was going to happen to her if she called out for help in the dark between 1:30 and 7:30. So the only way she could be saved was through that. So I had to go on behalf of the council's defence and find out about the lighting and the holes and the covers and all that sort of thing, and interview her with a lawyer there, and we went to the scene of where it happened. And I tell you what, the whole time I'm looking around like this to see who's it's as rough as it gets, that place. It was really, really bad. So lighting is a very important aspect. Now this one, the next question from Eric, who graduated today with his Certificate 3. With regards to a public liability claim, for example, if you fall at someone's house, what happens if there's no negligence on anyone's part? Now, really good example of this could be at someone's house or in a shopping centre. An elderly person is walking through, they fall over and break their hip. Now, that's the story. That's what everybody thinks happens. But if you go and speak to any osteopath or someone like that, they'll say, no. Was there any bananas? And I'll go, no. Was there any ice cream? No. Oil? No. Ball bearings? No. Right. Grease? No. The surface was perfectly clear. So what happened was the person's walking through and their hip breaks and they fall over. Now, that's nobody's fault. So you've got to be really intense with your questioning in relation to this and not believe everything that the witness tells you or everybody, because they don't know when the person's hip broke, if it fell over, if it was after they fell over and hit the ground or it was before it. They do not know that. So sometimes there can be a no-fault situation. There was one in Tasmania, absolutely tragic. Young man was driving home, very worthwhile young man, very capable apprentice, lovely wife and family, and lightning struck a tree on the side of the road. The tree fell on top of his car and killed him. Gosh. Can't claim for it. Classic act of God. So it's happened in a public place. He never got a cent. So God giveth, God taketh away, and God doesn't pay for it either. But so never got a cent. So that's a situation where there's nothing at all. But if there is fault, I'm telling you now, I once did an investigation where a delivery person delivered medication on behalf of a chemist to an old couple at their house, and they had a faulty step. On the way leaving the house, that delivery person fell over and broke their leg and sued the owners of the house, the old couple. They had no insurance. They had to sell their house to pay her claim. So there's fault. Sometimes there's not fault. That's how you go in depth into your questioning of it. And you get these because they're difficult. It's our job. We're investigators. We love this kind of stuff. That's what we do. Speaking of loving what you do, this is me earlier in the week with something I was doing. Here I am teaching trademark investigations to people who do trademark investigations. I'm going through this, that, and the other, and there's Pat, and I'm saying here at this point, Pat, I'll review section 214 on that one, mate. So, that's what I do. I just help Pat out. So here I am teaching away about trademark investigations. And there's a few people in that room, and there's other in Adelaide, and there's other people in the room in Hobart, and they're all got monitors set up, and there's quite a few people in this trademark investigation bloody course. So I'm doing that, and I'm teaching away and minding my own business, and that's what I do for a living. I'm a trademark investigation instructor. Now, this morning I get up and I start having a look on the internet about what's going on, and I see this. Purshoot magazine in America, the biggest magazine in a country of 300 million people, right, who would have probably, I don't know, 1 million of them as investigators, have started PI Curious. Pi Curious. That's what they've called it. Pi Curious. And I thought, hang on, that sounds a little bit like what I'm doing right now, which is Spy Curious. They've gone and looked at my YouTube channel and thought, oh, what a great idea. Make a dick of yourself every Friday and all these people come along and watch your program. And I thought, wow, that is just a little bit close to pushing it a little bit too far. Now, it's American Pie Curious, I suppose, because it's an American organisation, but they've gone and done that. So I'll be in touch with my trademark attorney this week to just get a little bit of an explanation, because on their website for Purshoot magazine, which is the owner of that organisation, they call it Spy Curious there. So hidden away on their website, it's Spy Curious. There, it's Pie Curious. Just this week, I was teaching trademark investigations here in this country to people who do trademark investigations. So I found that really incredibly weird. And So two people can play that game. They've got Purshoot magazine and they're doing that. Well, I'm going to come up with my own version of Purshoot magazine just to even things up. Here's what it looks like.
Howdy folks, I'm Cowboy Bob from Purshoot Magazine. You queers ain't getting out guns, Bibles, and star-spangled banner. So back off.
So, over at Purshoot magazine, hang on to your Bibles and your guns and your Star-Spangled Banner, because I am not happy about this at all. So that's something.
I like Renee's reaction.
Yeah. So the gloves are on, Renee. Look out. People, I've gone over time. We've had a lot to cover today. We've had some serious issues today. We've had Casey's road test, which was really interesting. I quite enjoyed that. I'll look into that myself now. And we're going to go out with our usual way when I find it. Not going out with Cowboy Bob. He's a bit rude.
작전 종료. 전원 복귀할 것.
Yes, that's it. All right, we'll do one more Cowboy Bob. All right.
Howdy folks, I'm Cowboy Bob from Purshoot Magazine, the magazine for the fugitive retrieval professional. Bring 'em back, dead or alive. Purshoot Magazine.
Oh dear, looks like I'm in trouble again. Don't forget, people, there's hundreds of job vacancies. I put up 20 job vacancies today on our job vacancy page. Get on there and have a look at it. I'm Mike Evans from the Australian Security Academy. Thank you for popping in today, Casey and Pat.
Pleasure.
Welcome.
Bye-bye.
We'll see you again next week, people, on Spy Curious, not on Purshoot Magazine. Thanks for watching.